everybody. How are you?
Not here.
Happy New Year.
All over the place.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Welcome. So we will start today with a roll call to order.
Weedman,
Here.
Mack,
Here.
Braden, LaCroix,
Here.
Miller, here, Nash,
Here.
Strack.
Here.
All right. Pledge allegiance. We have. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America.
Okay. Next is approval for the agenda.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Miller? Yes. Strack,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye.
LaCroix,
Aye.
Nash.
Aye.
Next we are in public comments. Who do we have, Jason? I know, I think I just saw Mr. Ryder sign up.
Don't dare attempt to read
Do you want to come on up, Mr. Ryder?
Hello, everyone.
I'm Quinn Ryberty, Grace Lake resident, teacher at the school. And I'm here first to thank the board for revisiting the strike day for the retirees. I just wanted to bring up one short point, just in case you guys weren't thinking of it. First off, you know, when it got close to being that day, I talked to some of the retirees, and we all talked to the administration, trying to find out what our responsibility was, because we were under contract. Obviously, we were kind of between a rock and a hard place, and really no one really knew what it was. But we were very cognizant that we were under contract. So when the time came and it was settled, I mean, those whose contract was up, you know, who was being negotiated, they got docked a day that they missed. You know, we were basically locked out. And if we do also get docked, we'll be docked for the rest of our lives. It's not one day, it's forever. So I just wanted to hopefully make you aware of that, and hopefully you'll agree that that doesn't really sound too fair or just, but that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Next is a recognition of Meadowview School honorary green ribbon resolution. Mr. John Wysick from the county board.
Thank you. I don't think I need a microphone.
No, because you're on tape. Soundtrack.
So first of all, thank you, Superintendent Glickman and President Wyman for inviting me out tonight. When I saw this originally, I was so moved because at the county we're trying to do this too on a very big scale for 700,000 plus people. And when I saw that our schools were taking a leadership position, I was thinking, this is great. Our kids are involved, our teachers are involved, administration, the school board, and we're doing the right thing. You probably saw the news today. There was a record broken last year. It was the second hottest year on record. So the climate change work you're doing here, your everyday education is greatly appreciated, needed, and I think essential to our overall education. So I'd like to read the resolution itself. So this was approved by the county board, signed by the county board president and myself. Whereas Meadowview School in Grays Lake was recently honored as a 219 U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon School for their achievements in environmental and sustainability education, and whereas recognized at a ceremony at the U.S. Department of Commerce in Washington, D.C., Meadowview School was one of 35 schools in 14 districts that were honored, and whereas Meadowview School was nominated for the award by the Illinois Green Alliance for striving for 21st century excellence in reducing environmental impact and costs, improving the health and wellness of schools, students, and staff, and providing effective environmental and sustainability education. And whereas The school has implemented ways to reduce its energy consumption, including outfitting water sensors in all sinks and toilets, and lighting sensors in all classrooms. The district is also working to add solar panels to all of its buildings, and whereas Meadowville School places strong emphasis on the importance of the movement to promote better health for students and staff. In addition to recess and physical education classes, each class incorporates movement breaks. There is also a designated movement and learning lab featuring equipment and activity stations designed around balance, strength, fine motor skills, and cardiovascular fitness. And to promote environmental literacy, Meadowview School has partnered with the Lake County Forest Preserves, where students act as habitat heroes to restore the woodland behind the school. Students also study sustainability in the classroom. Kindergartners take sensory walks where they study native birds, learn to take care of nature, and fourth graders study the impact of erosion, solutions to erosion. And Meadowville School is one of 7 schools within Community Consolidated School District 46, which serves parts of Grays Lake, Third Lake, Haynesville, Round Lake Park, Round Lake Beach, and Lake Villa. Now therefore be it resolved on behalf of the Lake County Board, County Board Member John Wasik and County Board Chair Sandy Hart do hereby recognize the Meadowview School administration, staff, students, and the District 46 Board of Education and parents for being named a 2019 Green Ribbon School, and salute your environmental leadership. Thank you very much, and this is yours. Congratulations.
Can we get a picture with the county board member and the staff from Meadowview? That's their award. They earned it. They deserve the credit for it. So we can get a picture with them.
Where would you like
Come on
to?
up.
Oh my gosh. Great. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Where would you like me to see it? Everybody get in the picture, come on.
Don't be shy.
Thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you so much, and I know teachers, I know you're sitting down, but I also want to give you that moment. Excuse me, I know tomorrow is a long day ahead of you, and if you have places that you need to be, as much as we would love for you to stay for the rest of the board meeting, we would understand if you took this moment for a graceful exit, if that's what you prefer to do. Yes, absolutely, we understand, and thank you. We are very, very honored by this award, so thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Up to board reports. Okay.
So community engagement, Lynn and I met on Monday night and had a great, very good conversation about, in which we articulated the expectations for the strategic planning process and then as they relate to the community engagement process. And at this point, we've established values and purpose, and most of those expectations, Stephen and I then met right before this meeting and talked a little bit more about some questions and that we might have for you next time, if you're good with that. So that's one thing. The next is yesterday I attended the Go Green meeting at the Botanic Gardens and learned about behind the meter and community solar and philanthropic solar initiatives. One of the philanthropic is going on at Libertyville. That's what I was telling you about before the meeting, where donors will come around a municipal building or a church or something, and they will actually pay for the installation of the solar panels. So that's might be something to pursue. And then the last thing, actually 2 more things. The Grays Lake Arts Alliance contacted me. They have installed 2 display cases. Lynn, I don't know if he's reached out to you.
Not yet.
Yeah. Ernie wanted to know who to talk to, and so I gave him your email address, and they want student art on a rotating regular basis. So
I bet we can make that happen.
I thought we might be able to.
To make it happen in my office?
That's kinda what I was thinking.
So certainly.
So that, and then the last thing is just a plug for my daughter's social studies teacher, Mrs. Dunham, is doing this amazing project, and my kid came home today and was off the wall excited about learning about genocide, which I was kind of like, genocide? Tell me more about why you're excited, but she was so fascinated by the psychology of it, so hats off to Mrs. Dunham. That's it?
The only thing I have is, I got an email from, Chris Wolk regarding, interviews for the new CSBO. He's looking for a board member to sit in on that on the 21st, early afternoon.
Late afternoon, early evening.
So looking for somebody who would be interested in sitting in on that interview. And my initial thought was if Jason was available.
I would love to. I need to clear something on my work schedule to make sure. But if it's the later in the day, the better for me, but.
Anybody else have any ideas, thoughts? Okay. You guys okay with Jason sitting in on that interview? Okay, so if you can't clear your schedule, let us know and we'll look for someone else.
When will we know the exact time?
It's gonna be 4 o'clock.
Oh,
You know
We
the
just kind of, gotta set up the interviews, but we don't have 3 candidates.
I think I can.
you can do that?
Couple minutes later.
Thank you. All right, let's settle that. That's all I got.
That's my wife's birthday, but I'm sure we'll be.
Oh, really? Mine too.
Is it really?
No, my wife's not yours. All right, anybody else have anything? Chris, we're for you.
Okay, we have a bunch of things. First of all, do we have access to those photos? Because I wanted to congratulate our weather watchers. Okay, I'm gonna skip that. We'll come back to it while we're getting that set up, but it's just fun enough that I want you to be able to see these photos. So we'll come back to that. So I want to mention a second honor that has come to Meadowview School that we're really excited about. As you know, tonight we heard about this very, very kind resolution. And then just after winter break, we learned of a second honor for Meadowview. So the Lake County Storm Water Management Commission, also known as SMC, has chosen Meadowview as the 2019 recipient of their Education and Outreach Award in recognition of the school's environmental education and sustainability programs and school-wide woodland project. And Mrs. Morgan has been invited to an evening reception and ceremony at the Lake County Central Permit Facility in Libertyville to receive an award on March 5th. So more really nice news for Meadowview and their environmental actions and studies in education. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Lewis to talk about the 5 Essentials Survey.
So thank you for that. We're in the middle of our 5 Essentials Survey. The 5 Essential is a survey that the state of Illinois asks us to participate in as a way to measure the overall quality of the school. We have students who will be taking it, may have already started, some depending on what school. So over the next 2 weeks, we'll have 4th through 8th graders taking the survey. We also have a staff window that's open, so we have certified staff who will be taking that over the next 2 weeks or so. And then we also are encouraging all of our parents to take the 5 Essentials Survey. The survey actually closes February 14th, so we have a good amount of time still. If we have if parents or guardians have students in more than one building, they can take the survey in more than one building for each building because it doesn't cross building the information. We're remembering that the 5 Essentials data is part of the statewide designation, so it's one of the data pieces that ranks our schools. So of course we want information that's going to help our schools grow, but it is important because it is one of the measures as the state designations for our schools. So we value the information. We have not typically had enough parents fill out the survey to get results by parents. So we need to have at least 20% of our parents fill out the survey, and so they take the number of students. And last year, I think the highest was 15 or 16% of parents. I fully admit that the parent survey is long. It's 120 questions, and it does take about 20 to 25 minutes. So I understand why there might be some concern for parents to take that, especially if they have 2 or 3 buildings that their family represents. It's a long amount of time for the survey. But we will get reports from the students' data, and we'll get reports back from the staff information as well. So just an encouragement for us to plug the 5 essentials. Leslie always does an amazing job. There's a link right on our website, the first page, and the survey is available in both English and Spanish. And I know that one of the upcoming BPAC meetings, we're going to have opportunities for parents to have a computer lab and help, if needed, to take the survey as well. So just an important thing that we're in the middle of.
And I just want to add to that plug of parents completing the survey. As Christy and I were meeting and talking about community engagement, this is a perfect opportunity for community engagement. It is a shame that it is such a long survey. We're of course not responsible for that. We didn't create the survey, but we really do hope that we'll have many parents complete it, because we get better when we get information from our community, and so it would be really helpful. All right, some matters regarding our staff that I wanted to mention. Some folks have heard us talk about an upcoming insurance advisory committee, and so I wanted to give you a little bit of information about that. But I'm going to pause because there's cute art behind me, and I can't compete with cute art. So we'll just back up. Oh, cute art is gone. This is like the magic cute art. You can't do it. Yeah. There we go. So we had one of the 3rd grade teachers at Avon, Ms. Hendrickson, submitted some of her students' artwork about weather to Channel 7, and they were chosen as weather watchers. And so this happened, I think it was last week. They got to be on the news. And so we have Josh and Talia. Look at that one. I love that. And there's one more, and Allie. Look how cute that one is. Yeah. Let's see him one more. I think you had it on a loop, right? We'll watch it again. I wish it was like that now. They say weather watchers, weather sketchers it's called. So anyway, we were really proud of our students and really grateful to our teacher for submitting that to give our students some moments of fame. So, okay, back to the Insurance Advisory Committee. So we're bringing together some staff members and some administrators as well to look at our insurance plans and take a look at our plan designs to see if there are any opportunities to make the design better for everybody. And so a better design would mean better for the staff who are using the plan and better for the school district so that the plan is less expensive. So we have some ideas, but we won't know until we really dig in to find out if it's possible. I met with a couple of members of union leadership yesterday and talked with them about our plans moving forward. I believe that there was an interest on the board of there being a board member that was a part of that group. So I wanted to give you information about it. In the future, I think it's likely that this group would meet, maybe 2-3 times in the school year, kind of in a stretched out fashion throughout the school year. But right now, if we're going to make any changes in our plan design, we need to have a bunch of meetings kind of compacted, because we would want to be able to make those changes before open enrollment, which happens late in the spring, so that those changes could be in effect next year. So our first committee meeting is next Thursday at 3:30. I know that is a terrible time for board members. I am trying to be respectful of, frankly, of our union members' time so that they can come in right after school to be a part of that meeting. So think about it. If there is a board member who's interested and available, we're looking at 3 or 4, and we've set aside time for 4 meetings between next Thursday and kind of the end of April. So there will be meetings every about 3 weeks or so. And again, you know, we're not committing people to meeting every 3 weeks throughout a school year. That sounds terrible for everybody. But just right now, when we're trying to look at plans. Any questions about that from the board? Okay. Another matter regarding our staff is this. So various schools have kindness clubs for students and have done kindness challenges for students. We decided to start the year 2020 with a kindness challenge for staff. So for the next 5 weeks, we are doing the Kindness Warms the Heart Challenge. It is, like any challenge, obviously very, it's optional. You know, people sign up on their own if they wish to, but people who want to be involved are doing things to show kindness to other staff members, kindness to students and parents, kindness to the community, and kindness to themselves. And we have a little, I brought it with me, where's a little game board that they can complete, and people who do at least 20 activities over the next 5 weeks will get a little prize. And then we have these little cute little traveling kindness rocks that are traveling around the district that people are handing off to each other when they have identified some acts of kindness. So it's just a nice warm way for us to kick off the new year. We're excited about that. And then I have 2 updates from Foundation 46. I first of all wanted to share with you the Fall Foundation grant recipients. We have 3 grants that were awarded. One went to 3rd grade throughout the school district, although I believe that Mary Murphy was the teacher who actually wrote that grant, and it's for what we call mentor texts, which are texts that our teachers use to help teach a particular concept in writing and literacy. And how did I do with that? All right, excellent. And so that's a $5,000 grant for the purchase of books for the 3rd grade teachers throughout the school district. So that was one grant. The next grant went over to Grace Lake Middle School. It was a grant that was written by Alex Dollinger, a speech language pathologist, and Lori Hornstra, our hearing specialist. And it is for what is called the sound field amplification systems. And what these are it's something for a teacher to wear, so the teacher actually has like a mic that he or she speaks into, and then there are speakers around the room. And a teacher who's using that can speak in just a regular voice, not using that teacher voice that we're used to hearing, but more the voice you're hearing right now, and students throughout the classroom can hear that. So it's really great for students who do have hearing loss, but it's actually great for all students. And it's great for the teacher who is not using that projected teacher voice all day. So that was $4,467 for the purchase of those systems. And the last one went to the Park Campus Reading Specialists and the creation or the updating of their guided reading room. So it's $1,000 to enhance their guided reading room. So we really are so very grateful to Foundation 46 for their contributions. And also, Foundation 46 was just the recipient of some money from our community, which obviously will then be turned back to our schools. So the Oasis closed. I bet probably most of you are way more familiar with Oasis than I am, since it closed before I got here, but I understand it was a program for teens. Youth Center, right. So it closed last spring, I think. And when it closed, it was left with some funds. And because it was a what's the word I'm looking for?
Not-for-profit.
That's the word, a non-for-profit, it needed to turn its funds over to other non-for-profits, in a sense. So they have awarded the foundation $2,500 specifically for grants for music, for the music programs. So we'll be talking with our music teachers about that, so we're really very grateful to them. And I think that's it for the superintendent report.
Okay. Next is committee reports.
I don't think we have any.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I need an approval or a
Motion.
motion to approve the consent agenda. Thank you very much for the assist.
So moved.
Second. Nash.
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye. Next to our action items. The first one is a motion to approve the termination of employment for Christine Ackerman as a probationary employee of the school district effective immediately. Move.
So moved. Second.
Weedman.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Nash.
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
Next is a motion to approve the request to rescind the letter of intent to retire from Colleen Irvin submitted during the 2018-19 school year in accordance to the collective bargaining agreements. Motion, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Nash. Aye.
Next is motion to approve the certified staff seniority list. This is just an annual thing we have to do.
Move. Second.
Strack.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Nash. Aye. Weedman.
Aye. And motion to approve the PSRP staff seniority list.
So moved.
Second.
Mack.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Nash.
Aye.
And then we have a motion to authorize the administration to submit an application for fiscal year 2020 school maintenance grant for the maintenance and upkeep of projects on the buildings of the school district.
Any
Anybody have
information? Yeah.
some
What-
background?
Yes, where's my friend Keith? There he is.
Good evening. I must have read it, it was in the board packet, but.
Thank you.
Put one together quick. Refresher. Good evening. We are, have an opportunity to get a grant of $50,000, but we have to pledge $50,000 to the project, which would be covered by the Meadowview roof that we're intending on bringing to you in the next couple board meetings. But we need to get it approved tonight so we can get it submitted and get it in the works. I don't believe it's a guarantee, is it?
It's not written as a guarantee.
Right.
What we keep hearing kind of in the CSBO community is that people believe it's a guarantee. They believe that everyone who applies for it is gonna get it. But, you know, we'll believe it for sure when we
Right.
get it, so.
But that's basically what it's about, and if you have any questions, ask away.
It's just a matching grant.
That's all it basically is.
We were planning on spending well above that anyways.
Right.
This seemed like a no-brainer. Is there
It is.
something-
$50,000 that we weren't gonna have
Right,
to
it's
do a project that we were
50,000
planning
towards
to
the-
do.
New roof that we don't have
We're
to
gonna buy
use.
anyway. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Second.
Miller.
Aye.
Nash. Aye. Strack.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
All right, the second, last, sorry. Next is the second reading of motion to approve the policies that are listed there.
So, do you want to talk about 550 at all? Are there still questions about that?
Does anybody have any questions, any more questions about the 550 with the vaping, the marijuana use, and tobacco?
So there were some questions at the last, okay, I'll just bring us back for a moment. It's been a while since our last meeting. There were questions about that one. We recorded all those questions. There was a wondering if maybe we would want to bring our attorney, Kevin Gordon, into this meeting to get those questions answered. Chris Woke had a good conversation with Mr. Gordon, and I think he has the answers to those questions. So if you'd like, we can kind of go through those now to make sure that you're comfortable with the, okay. So come on up, Chris. Yeah.
Sit too
It's
long
hurting.
when you get this old. There were two questions that we were discussing at our policy committee and the first reading. If you have the policies in front of you, under 550, the drug and alcohol-free workplace, if you take a look at the first, it's actually the second paragraph, the first highlighted section, which states in highlight is on or being on call, and that's a choice that the district could make of whether keeping that or not keeping that. What that refers to in talking with Kevin is that's more for operations and maintenance when you know there's going to be something. Snowmageddon that was supposed to be this weekend, we would have to give 24-hour notice to our O&M staff that to be on call that they might be coming in. And during that time period, they cannot be under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
And Chris, do I remember correctly that and Keith, you may have some knowledge about this as well, that we do habitually have O&M staff members who are on call for things that might happen, not emergencies, but things that might happen during the weekend, is that right?
We have staff member that we rotated, and there's at least 6 of them that are signed up for it.
Okay.
Basically for the building alarms. If the alarm goes off in the building, I send that person in, and
Okay.
they do by week.
So it's logical that we wouldn't want those people to be impaired if they are needing to come into work.
Right.
So the same would go for them, that those people, this is just kind of formalizing that those people, while they are on call, they need to be drug and alcohol free.
There were some questions, concerns about whether that meant whether possibly the superintendent would be on call at all times, because if something happens, then it's probably the first person that should know. And this is that would be in the case of an emergency. So we would work on a chain of command organizational chart so that if it's, Lynn may want a glass of wine one time or another. So if
But not if there's going to be a snowstorm.
not if there's going to be a snowstorm. So if something happens and Lynn has had a glass of wine, she can contact Paul, who can then, if Paul had a glass of wine too, then he can contact me. And so we would go down that chart.
Designated survivor.
The other question was number 3 in that top section as well. I know the question came up, you take a look at 1 and 2 are fairly duplicate. 3 is as well until you get to the point right after press plus 3, in the middle, towards the end of that paragraph. And it says the district considers employees impaired by or under the influence of cannabis when there is good faith belief that an employee manifests the specific articulable symptoms, press plus 4, listed in the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act. So there was a question about that, and what Kevin said was that this is actually part of the cannabis law. This is part of the regulations that went into place to help protect employers who suspects an employee is under the influence. And it states that an employer cannot be sued in the case of a possible termination if it's found that an employee is under the influence. It lists in the law the specific physical traits that may manifest themselves, and then also in that same paragraph in the law references due process, so that an employee does have the right to due process after, if they are believed to be under the influence. We've already talked about in leadership and talked with our attorneys about a process that we will put in place if an employee is suspected or if an administrator sees somebody and they're not sure. There's a list of items, and they will call another administrator, myself, if I'm not available, another cabinet level administrator to come and observe as well. Does that answer those questions?
So the concern was that there wasn't anything analogous to a blood alcohol test.
Correct.
But this criteria is set out in the law that legalized recreational marijuana, and it's probably the best proxy we have right now. Is that, am I paraphrasing, Kevin?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have it, if anybody would like to read through it. All right. So those were the two big questions that we had. All right?
Anybody else have any concerns through the policies? Any motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Nash. Aye. Miller.
Excuse me, aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
All right, next is unfinished business. First is update on the impact tax abatement.
So Jim and I spoke about this a little bit earlier today. We're going to put that conversation off, and I'll explain why and kind of our plan moving forward. So just as a reminder where this all came from, and I believe our last board meeting, we talked about writing the grant for tax abatement. And that grant already needed to be put in last week. So the board agreed for us to move forward with writing that grant, knowing full well that it's not a very good chance of us getting it. We are pretty low on the list in the state of Illinois for receiving that grant, but we decided to go ahead and move forward with it. The way it works, however, is that we're kind of in a waiting period of whether or not we even are getting the grant, and the board wanted to know, if we get it and we move forward with it and actually offer that abatement to our community, what's the potential impact on our finances in the future? So the board asked that John do a projection of that. He's done that projection, and he was positioned to share that information with you this evening. However, as you can see at the table, he was not able to be here this evening. I don't think that puts any difficulty for us, because we won't know until late next week. I think January 30th is the date that we're supposed to get the news from the state as to whether or not we're getting the grant. If we get the grant, we have all the way until March 30th to actually do the abatement. So we have plenty of time to still present that projection to you so you can make an informed decision as to whether or not we're going to abate taxes. It was a long way of saying information to come. If it becomes even important, if we don't get the abatement, or we don't get the grant, there's really no point. Any questions there? Okay.
The next is the discussion regarding an ed red membership for the district.
I think Christy sent us something, right?
Right,
The
Christy sent
update from
us-
Ed Red. I think is that in lieu of this talk, or someone prepared
Yeah, I
to talk
think
about
that was, so, the email talks about all the benefits of the ed red and what they've accomplished. They have a property tax relief task force. They have, I'm quickly scanning here. They work to get school district positive legislation passed down at the state level for everybody. They work to try and get funding for their school districts and everything else like that. So that was the purpose behind her ask for us to join the ed red. She said that she would be our representative with that. So, did anybody have any other questions for that, or are we okay with moving forward with that?
You had asked for budget information regarding where the board is and kind of spending
Out of our
out your
board
budget, and so that's information that's been provided to you. There is certainly still funding available to the board for this cost. I don't think it's gonna put you in the red. But that's, that information, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and Sue, your secretary, may also be able to answer questions about your budget as well, if you're interested.
The fee's 2,500 or something like that, right?
I think it was, yes,
About
that's
that.
the number I have in mind, I believe so.
That's well within our budget, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
annually, yes.
And it would save us hours and hours and hours of time, right?
Anybody have a problem moving forward with that? Okay. Do we need a,
No, we didn't put it up for an action item because it's at such a low cost, we didn't feel like it, so we just kind of thought you'd kind of be making a consensus decision.
okay,
And if you're in consensus, then Sue will
like
go
we
ahead and
are.
get you working.
okay, sounds like we are.
Okay?
All right, next is the discussion regarding the creation of a finance committee. I believe that goes to you, Jason. Right?
I would still like to create a finance committee.
Per the proposal.
So I'll remind everyone that Mr. LaCroix provided you all with some kind of a framework of what it might look like. And I know he was hopeful that people would have a chance to review it before tonight.
So the hope is to have this committee meeting ahead of regularly scheduled school board meetings, probably not as frequently. I was thinking something monthly or quarterly. The proposal I put together talks about the envisioned people at the table, the activities that I kind of see happening. I think, again, I think I ask this every time and I get a good answer at the time, but it's just not clear to me how this officially gets put into place. Is it just by consent of the board and we just,
Yep.
like, writing
There's
our
no
names
big,
in
there's
blood?
no big
Yeah.
proclamation.
I think so. And I think the other conversation that the board might want to have is the scope of the committee.
Right?
And is it something that, that you want to start just with the board and the administration bringing information to those few board members who are a part of the committee, or are you wanting to, at the outset, have a larger committee? I think that's the other piece.
Would it be helpful if I kind of reviewed the proposal at this
Yeah,
time?
might be.
Actually, I did make copies for everybody.
Basically, it's the same as what you sent us, right?
There is a third page to what I just handed out that is, it's a mock-up of an agenda.
Okay.
Just to kind of, it's a little bit more information about, like, the stakeholders and what I think that they might be wanting to talk about. So briefly, I won't go into too much detail, but the idea for this committee really came out of the last days of the contract negotiations with the unions. And I felt like we had really good sessions, especially the last night. And I just felt like if we had a forum where we could more regularly talk about issues facing us, issues facing them, instead of doing that against the backdrop of contract negotiations, if we just had a more regular dialogue about this, and even bring in some stakeholders from outside of those two parties. And I'm thinking in terms of maybe even village trustees or local elected representatives. I think discussions about EdRed has a good home in this committee as well, because a lot of the problems that face our district are ones with solutions, not necessarily in this room, but rather in Springfield. And I would like to get people excited about the idea of trying to advocate for change at that level to the extent that it would benefit our whole school community. So the idea is that we'd have, here's the envisioned stakeholders I'm seeing, anyone in the community who's interested, teachers union leadership and membership for that matter, administrators, especially the superintendent and CSBO, any village trustees who, we might dialogue with informally about things like new development or, commercial property, that kind of thing that impacts our revenue. I'm thinking about elected state representatives whose decisions and advocacy in Springfield has probably the single biggest impact on our bottom line. The kinds of things I envision taking place in this committee would be a regular update on the district's finances from our CSBO. I'm not sure how regularly financial statements are prepared, but I know most places, corporate-wise, it's monthly. They can get a monthly report. Discussions on projections. I'm thinking that we could brainstorm revenue enhancement and cost-saving ideas. And this is where the ed red part comes in. It'd be organizing advocacy for public school funding initiatives at the state level. So that's the vision I have for it. I think I've reached out to a couple of different possible stakeholders, but I would like to get this started sooner than later. We're not too far away from, activities that would benefit from having had this.
I like the proposed idea, Jason. One of the things too, coming out of our most recent IASB conference in Chicago, there was a lot of conversation around transparency and finances, and it kind of tethers on community engagement as well, right? The more that you can bring those key stakeholders together to have those conversations, one, it builds trust, obviously, with the unions, right? But then from a community standpoint, they understand where the tax dollars are going, how we're managing our money, and it just starts to build a collective basis of trust. So I like the concept.
Yeah, I like the idea that any misunderstandings about our finances, I'm a board member and I don't always understand what I'm looking at, and it's just good that we see something and ask questions about it. There are no state secrets here. We've been very open and forthcoming with our finances, but we just don't have the forum. I think a budget presentation doesn't necessarily stick out in anyone's mind. No one's scouring meeting agendas to see, oh, I got to make sure I catch that budget presentation, right? This is a place where, this is the place to come for these discussions.
How often do you think you're going to want to, and by the way, I love it. I'm just curious, how often do you envision these would take place?
I've been back and forth on that.
Yeah.
No more frequently than monthly. I guess I'm kind of canvassing for suggestions. I think maybe quarterly. That'd be 2 times in the fall and 2 in the spring. Does that sound about right?
It feels similar to me to what other districts might be doing when they have a committee like this.
I like the proposal. My only suggestion would be to have for an initial meeting to be, I guess, with the whatever board members are involved, and administration, to discuss the process of inviting or selecting other members from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So rather than just putting out a blanket invitation, having a process behind it so that it's not so ambiguous to people who apply, who just say they want to be on the committee, and then everyone who wants to be is on the committee, because then you could have a committee of 300 people.
Right.
That's
not
not
really a
gonna work,
committee.
so.
Right.
So I
Just
think,
to add some additional focus
Yeah.
to the work.
Right.
Yeah, I like that idea.
And so, because it would be a board committee and therefore open to the public, right? We would be creating a committee with set participants, but then anybody could come to watch the meeting, correct? Mhm. Yes.
And Jason, while you could start out with that quarterly cadence, and maybe, I know you're still brainstorming, so not trying to solve here, but just a thought. Those leading districts in terms of like how they're engaging the community and promoting transparency, they have within their websites, right, like just this financial loop that kind of just runs through the website or whatever. They kind of push information out to the community, to the schools around hey, this was like the hot topic of the month, or hey, did you know? Those type of things. So maybe while the formal meetings are quarterly, maybe there's an opportunity, you know, on a monthly basis. I think we're talking about having access to financials on a monthly basis. Maybe that's a way to get some information out to key stakeholders and community in more consumable parts.
Yeah, I like that idea, and it sounds like there might even be something of a nexus with the community engagement.
Yeah, my brain's headed to just a board tab. If there's some way we could put some of that information on the tab so people who can't attend the meeting, I think similar to what you were saying.
Nice job.
So that, you go ahead.
Are you thinking you try it for a year or amount of time and see how it goes, or this is?
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought about how it was gonna end, but, isn't that really just how all committees are?
Have to, right?
If it works well, it's a
Yeah.
continuum.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really have a goal in mind, unless, I mean, the state's gonna take care of all of our financial problems by fiat tomorrow. We wouldn't probably need this, but. I like the idea, though, of the first meeting maybe being before the next board meeting, and it just being a kind of like, let's set up a little bit more of a structure, and that work can be done before the larger group gets together.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah, we can. Although I have some wonderings about maybe it being better a little bit later than the next board meeting.
Okay.
So,
Maybe we can talk offline.
yeah, I'll think about that one a little bit. But do we know that we have 3 board members that would specifically want to be on this committee?
Yeah, I'd consider it for sure.
I'd like to be on it, unless, I don't know, I'm thinking
I don't know that it needs to be limited to 3, but I just think but in order for it to be a board committee, it would need to be 3, right? But can you have more, can't it?
Yeah.
Our board secretary is saying yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna be having 3 anyways, you gotta post it. anyways.
Exactly, right, that makes
So
it
if you have more.
Okay, okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about how we get it started. Does that sound okay?
Yes, perfect.
Is the board comfortable with Jason and I just having that conversation, and we'll come back to something? Okay, great.
All right, well, there's no new business for tonight. Next is topics for future agenda items.
Yeah, I have 2, but both of them are, I think, next month. Or I think the next meeting, but potentially the meeting beyond that. So one is student fees. We would like to get moving on our student fees, so I think there's a high likelihood that we'll come to with student fees at the next meeting. And also related to what Keith was talking with us all about regarding the grant, the maintenance grant. So we're talking with Wold. I think I've shared this with you all a little bit, our architect, to be the entity that we contract with. They would then take us to bid for the Meadowview roof. So they would just be the entity that is bidding out for us to make sure that we get the best possible prices for our roof. So I think we will be bringing that contract to you at the next meeting so that we can move forward with them on that. Those are the 2 I have.
Anybody else have anything to add?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, just clarifying question. So I know Christy has spoken before about us having a session where we talked about learnings, collective learning. So I don't know if that was going to be something in public.
Are you talking about from the
From the
tri-conference?
IASB, yes, the Triple I.
Oh.
Did you see the Google? 'Cause she's.
Yeah, I saw that, I feel like at the December meeting, it got tabled, where Christy wanted to have a conversation about it, where we could kind of go around and share learnings and what we wanted to maybe consider bringing forward, next steps. And I think we stuck a pin in it, so just want to make sure we don't lose sight of that.
Is that something that the board wants us to do at the next meeting?
Report out a little bit about what you learned from the AAA conference.
I mean, probably the sooner the better, right? We don't want to get further and further away from that learning. So at the next meeting, we can all, do you want that to be like a discussion item, or or is that part of board reports?
maybe?
Yeah, we can just probably make it part of board report.
Yeah, but no one has to be surprised that they are suddenly needing to talk about a meeting from November, so we'll all know we're
Make sure we
doing
put
that.
/III.
Yeah, okay.
Is there a guiding question for that? Because the document's pretty long. I don't know if you guys have taken a look at it. It does have a lot of words.
Are you talking about, are you calling me out, Christy?
I'm saying I do.
I mean, maybe we could just have a one page where you could
What do you mean by,
chisel it to just-
what do you mean by
Yeah.
guiding question?
Some focus, or, I know I did a lot of writing in it, so I can read the whole thing, but I don't know that all of you will be asleep at the end of it. So just, is there a focus, or are there things that you guys are wondering, so I could think carefully about what I'm gonna share at that point?
I don't know.
Would we just do highlights of,
Yeah.
rather than,
Like top 3 things?
yeah, something like that.
Right.
The main topic points.
Yeah.
Top 3, and maybe if we set it, I don't know, 2 to 3 minute time limit, that kind of helps to just focus
Yep.
you on the more pressing items. Personally.
I would love to add community engagement to the next meeting. Talk about outreach to other boards, village, other texts.
Do you want that to be as part of just the committee, when we get to the committee report, just we'll make sure that we have engaged?
Sure.
Okay, sure.
All right, next I need a motion to go into closed session to talk about employment, compensation, discipline, and collective bargaining matters.
Second?
LaCroy,
Aye.
Nash,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Strack,
Aye.
Weedman. Was there any public comment?
Sorry. Jason, was there any,
No, I don't believe so.
Nope.